never buy a generator before you watch this. Because right now, a lot of people are about to spend $800, $1,000, sometimes $2,000 on a generator, thinking it's the thing that's going to save them when the power goes out. And I get why. It feels like the obvious answer. No power? Get a machine that makes power. Simple, right? Except it's not that simple. And in a minute, I'm going to show you why a generator might not even be the first problem you need to solve. I'm also going to show you 3 things that matter way more than a generator does. Things most people don't even think about until the power's already out and it's too late to do anything about it. So stick with me, because by the end of this, you're going to look at your own house completely differently. Let's start with the actual problem, because most people are wrong about how blackouts even work. If you ask the average person how long a power outage lasts, they'll say something like an hour, maybe 2. Annoying, but no big deal. You light a candle, you wait it out. The lights come back on. Life goes on. That's not what the data says anymore. Government numbers from the Energy Information Administration show that in 2024, the average American household dealt with about 11 hours of power interruptions over the year. That's almost double what it was just a couple years before that. And that number includes the big events, the storms, the hurricanes, the ice storms, the heat waves that push the whole grid past its limit. A separate survey from J.D. Power, which has been tracking utility customers for over 20 years, found that in the first half of 2025 alone, 45% of people in the U.S. had already experienced an outage. And when they looked at how long the longest outage lasted, the national number had jumped from about 8 hours in 2022 to almost 13 hours by the middle of 2025. If you live in the South, it's worse, averaging over 18 hours for the longest outage people dealt with. That's not a candlelight dinner. That's most of a day, sometimes into the next one. And in some states, it's even more extreme. South Carolina, mostly because of a single hurricane, averaged 53 hours of outages in 1 year. That's over 2 full days. So here's the first thing I want you to sit with. The old idea of a blackout, the one where the power blinks off and comes back an hour later, that's not really the normal case anymore, especially if bad weather is involved. The new normal is longer, messier, and a lot less predictable. Now, here's where the generator comes in. Because once people realize outages can last a long time, the instinct is always the same. Buy a generator. Problem solved. But there's something most people don't know about generators, and it's not a small thing. Portable generators are one of the leading causes of carbon monoxide deaths in homes across the country. Since 2009, they've been linked to over 760 carbon monoxide deaths in the US alone. That's not a random accident here and there. That's a pattern. The government's own consumer safety agency estimates something like 80 to 100 people die every single year, specifically from generators being used the wrong way. Usually that means running it too close to the house, in a garage, in a basement, somewhere the fumes can build up before anyone notices. And carbon monoxide is brutal because you can't see it, you can't smell it. And by the time your body starts telling you something's wrong, you might already be too out of it to do anything about it. Most of these deaths happen in people's own homes. Not outside, not in some freak accident. Inside, because someone thought it was fine to run the generator in the garage during a storm, or too close to a window. So think about that for a second. The solution that most people reach for first, the generator, is also something that requires almost perfect handling to be safe. 20 feet from your house, outside only, exhaust pointed away from anything you or your family breathe. Most people don't even know that rule exists until after they've already bought the thing. And think about the situation it usually gets used in. It's the middle of a storm. Maybe it's raining, maybe it's freezing outside, maybe the power just went out at 11 at night and everyone's tired and a little stressed. That's exactly the situation where people cut corners without even meaning to. They pull the generator a little closer to the house because it's raining outside. They run it just inside the garage with the door cracked because it's cold. None of that is stupid. It's just human. But it's also exactly how these deaths keep happening. Over and over, in ordinary homes, to ordinary people who just wanted their power back on. That's problem number 1 with the generator plan. But there's a second problem, and it's honestly the bigger one. A generator doesn't actually solve the first thing that goes wrong when your power goes out. Here's what I mean. When people imagine a blackout, they picture the dark. No lights, no TV, maybe a boring night with some candles. But that's not actually the first real problem your house runs into. The first real problem is your fridge. The USDA, the government agency in charge of food safety, has a very specific rule about this. Your refrigerator only keeps food safe for about 4 hours once the power goes out. After that 4-hour mark, if you've got meat, eggs, leftovers, anything like that in there, it's supposed to be thrown out. Not because it looks bad. It might look completely normal. But bacteria doesn't care what something looks like, and after 4 hours in a warming fridge, you can't trust it anymore. Your freezer buys you more time, but not unlimited time. A full freezer holds a safe temperature for about 48 hours if you keep the door shut. A half-full freezer, only about 24 hours. So picture this. The power goes out at 2 in the afternoon. By 6 that evening, your fridge is already a problem. And if the outage runs into a second or third day, which, remember, is now a very normal length of time for an outage, your freezer is right behind it. Now, here's the part that really matters. A generator can technically keep your fridge running, but most people don't run a generator constantly for 2 or 3 days straight. It needs fuel. It needs to be refueled every few hours. Someone has to be awake and paying attention to keep it going safely. And remember, it has to stay far from the house the entire time. That's a lot of moving parts for something that's supposed to be your simple backup plan. Meanwhile, there's a much simpler way to protect the exact same fridge and freezer, and it doesn't involve gas, exhaust fumes, or babysitting a machine all night. This is where the 3 items come in. And I want to walk through these slowly, because each one solves a specific problem that a generator either doesn't solve at all or solves in a way that's way more complicated than it needs to be. The first item is ice. Not the kind from your freezer, but block ice or dry ice that you get ahead of time and keep ready to go. Here's why this matters so much. A cooler packed with ice can keep your most important perishable food safe for days without needing any power at all. In fact, the safety guidance from food agencies says something like 50 pounds of dry ice can keep a fully packed 18 cubic foot freezer cold for about 2 full days. No fuel, no fumes, no noise. You just need to already have it or know exactly where to get it before the storm hits, because ice sells out fast once everyone else has the same idea. The trick is thinking about this before the storm even shows up on the forecast, not after. Once a storm warning goes out, every store near you is already picked clean of ice, water, and batteries. The people who handle this well are the ones who already had it sitting in a cooler in the garage weeks before anyone was talking about a storm at all. The second item is a way to know your actual temperatures, not guess them. This sounds boring, but it's the difference between guessing if your food is safe and actually knowing. A simple appliance thermometer in your fridge and freezer tells you the real number, so when the power comes back on, you're not standing there sniffing milk and hoping for the best. You know for a fact if everything inside stayed at 40 degrees or below, which is the number food safety experts use as the actual line between safe and not safe. Most people skip this step completely because it feels unnecessary, like something only a professional kitchen would need. But it costs almost nothing. It takes 10 seconds to check, and it's the one thing standing between you throwing out food that's actually still fine, or eating food that quietly went bad hours ago without any obvious sign. The third item is something for water and basic power, but a small version, not a whole generator setup. Something like a portable battery station, or a simple hand crank option that can charge a phone, run a small light, maybe keep a fan going if it's hot. This covers the actual things people care most about in the first day or two of an outage, which is usually just being able to see, charge a phone to call for help or check updates, and stay cool or warm depending on the season. None of that requires the horsepower of a full gas generator. It just requires something small that turns on instantly, with 0 fumes and 0 risk of anyone getting hurt using it wrong. You can keep it charged and sitting in a closet, forget about it for months, and it'll still be ready the second you need it, which is honestly the opposite of how a gas generator works, sitting there with old fuel that might not even start when you actually need it most. Here's the moment that really puts this in perspective. When you look at government surveys on this stuff, something interesting shows up. About half of Americans say they believe they're prepared for a disaster. But when you ask how confident they actually are that they'd know what to do in a real one, that number drops a lot. Only around a quarter of people say they feel truly confident. That gap right there, between feeling ready and actually being ready, is exactly where all this matters. Because it's not about having some huge, expensive setup in your garage that you barely understand and rarely test. It's about having a small number of things that are simple enough that you'd actually use them correctly under stress, in the dark, maybe with your kids asking questions, maybe with your phone at 5% battery. A generator sounds like the strong option, the serious option, the one that says you're really prepared. But when you actually look at what goes wrong in a blackout, first the fridge, then the freezer, then the phone, then just being able to see and stay comfortable, none of that actually needs a loud machine running gas in your backyard for 2 straight days. It needs ice you already have, a way to actually check your temperatures instead of guessing, and a small, safe way to keep your phone and a light going. So let's bring this all the way back to where we started. Outages aren't the quick, 1 hour inconvenience people picture in their heads anymore. Numbers from the last couple years show they're getting longer, especially if you're dealing with hurricanes, ice storms, or heat waves pushing the grid to its limit. In some parts of the country, especially the South, the average outage people deal with is stretching past 18 hours, and in the worst cases, past 2 full days. The instinct most people have is to solve that with a generator. But a generator brings its own serious risk, one that's actually killed hundreds of people simply because it wasn't used exactly the way it's supposed to be. And even when it's used safely, it still doesn't solve the first thing that actually breaks down in your house, which is your fridge, followed by your freezer, followed by your ability to just see, charge a phone, and stay comfortable. The 3 items, ice you already have ready to go, a real thermometer so you're not guessing, and a small, safe power option instead of a full generator, cover all of that without the fuel, the fumes, or the risk. That's really the whole point here. Being ready for a blackout isn't about having the biggest, loudest, most expensive setup sitting in your garage. It's about understanding what actually breaks first and having a few simple things ready so you're not scrambling, guessing, or putting your family at risk when it happens. If you want to see exactly what to get for each of these 3 things, I put the specific ones I'd actually trust down in the description.